Morning, guys. Welcome to my Compound Life. I'm your host, Jonathan. This is a channel where we build assets, we build great habits that help us to manage all of our assets, and of course, we build freedom. And today, as of time recording, it's the 14th of January around 9:30 in the morning, and this is yet another Bitcoin daily video. Okay, so if you're new here or old viewers, welcome all of you. I make daily Bitcoin videos, so you can definitely check that out. And also I talk about investment in general as well, but a lot of time for now I'm focusing on Bitcoin content because I'm such a new content creator on YouTube. So please help me out. Hit the like, hit subscribe, and you can essentially follow more of my content. I'll get onto the viewers' question towards the end of the video, so watch out for that too. Okay, so let's start. Let's start. We'll start with the price action over the past 24 hours for Bitcoin. And then we'll dive into some key indicators like fear and greed index, how much in terms of ETF flows, and a bit of technical stuff, technical analysis. And of course, get into the Bitcoin news, followed by the viewers' questions. Okay, so remember, Bitcoin is like a digital gold. It's a new form of digital currency that people use as money or to store value. So, of course, price can go up and down based on news, investors' mood, sentiment, and any of the economic trends. So let's dive in. First off, let's talk about Bitcoin price, not the fear and greed index. So Bitcoin price at the time of recording, it is at around 95,000 and dropping. So I think for the past 24 hours, Bitcoin is up about 2%. Let me check, 2%, 3%. Up about 3%. That's not bad. 3% from where it was yesterday morning. It started the day around 93,000 and climbed steadily, hitting a high over 96,500, 600. At one point before settling in a bit. So this is the highest it's been in the past 2 months. Since back in November 2025. So well done to all that have been hodling over the tough period of time when Bitcoin obviously dropped to about 80,000. So well done for holding. And I'm hoping that this sentiment shift can definitely push Bitcoin higher. So we shall see. So for now, it does seem 95,800. Let me just go into 4 hours chart. Yeah. So it does seem 95 to 95,800 seem to be a resistance now. And we'll need to make that a support, essentially in order for us to get up higher, right? So we need to break that resistance. Okay, so to be honest, I wasn't expecting this breakout to be this soon, right? Because I was thinking that it will continue to retrace and then throughout the asymmetric triangle and then followed by a breakout. But this definitely, it's a good confirmation that potentially we can go higher, right? So if we look at the day chart, so we drew this asymmetric triangle yesterday, and I'm thinking now in my mind, is this actually a dead cat bounce, or can we continue to rally further, right? So something you need to pay attention to, of course, we kind of have broken through this 93,000. And what you guys need to pay attention to now is for the next 3 days worth of close, daily close, we will need to stay above this 93,000, right? So obviously yesterday's daily close was very positive at around 95. You know what? Continue. We just have to close it in order for us to have that confirmation that the probability of us going higher, and I think it's very clear that we have definitely broken this symmetrical triangle, right? So price close above the upper blue trend line. The candle body is above resistance, not just a wick, right? And of course, volume expanded compared to the compression phase. So that already qualified as a valid technical breakout, I kind of believe. So we'll just have to wait for 2 or 3 more daily closes to confirm that. Definitely, structure has shifted bullish. I'm not sure about you guys, but at least last night in the UK, just before I went to bed, looking at the charts, I was like, you know what, let this hold, don't give me a fake pump, don't give me a fake out, and then drop back to about 90,000 again. But for now, I think definitely we can hold. But we just have to get through that 95,000 to 95.8. Certainly, let's not be overly bullish, right? Because there would be a chance that, the whole thing can invalidate this breakout. So at any time, a daily close back inside the triangle. So if this falls back into the triangle, right? Or a strong rejection that closes below the upper blue line, this would turn into a fake breakout. So right now, this hasn't happened, so that's good. That's good for everyone. I think everyone's pretty happy with the pump from yesterday. So what you're seeing here in the chart, we definitely have a breakout, so that's good. Structure shift, yes, that's also good. But in order for us to go higher, right? The higher essentially will, hoping that we'll get into at least from the perspective of 50 days moving average, right? We are well above that. And of course, I think, what am I doing? And of course, what we hope is, it continue to have that. So I'm looking at the 1-day chart, have another few more days to confirm that, then we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Let me refresh that. Yeah. So we need at least two or 3 more days, right? 3 daily candles, and then eventually, did I just break that chart? And what we hope to get is for Bitcoin price to get back up to about 100 and 105K, right? So that would be the 200 days moving average. If we can get there, that would be good. For now, Bitcoin is kind of testing the resistance around 96,000, which I think was also the cap from before too. So if we break above, we could see 100,000 soon. This price is above key moving average, like the 50 days SMA, around 89,000, 90,000. So yes, it does seem all of this are signaling an uptrend. Volume is up with the good pump, show real buying interest. And of course, short-term bullish. If we close above 95,000, right? And yeah, watch out for any pullbacks at 92,000. So I think overall, Bitcoin is doing well. Overall, the whole crypto market is doing pretty well too for the past 24 hours. I've covered something like Monero. Monero is continued going up at 3.2%. I think Ethereum is up by about 6%. So what about some of the Solana is up by about 2.5%, at least for the layer one. Everything's are up essentially because Bitcoin's up, right? So ADA is up 6.8%, AVAX 6.3%. So everything seems to be moving up. Okay, so again, if once sentiment shift, Bitcoin price improve, everything goes up with it too. So bear that in mind. So let's now move on to the Fear and Greed Index. We are officially back into the neutral zone at 47. I think we were at 26 yesterday. I think, guys, Bitcoin price, it moves up very, very, very quickly, right? So that's why it's always good to position yourself early, buy when we are at the extreme fear zone. And that would be like the best time to accumulate, right? So just a recap of what fear zone was like much earlier, right? So back in sometime in October, right? When we were still in fear, and then eventually everything shifted onto extreme fear sometime towards November. Look at that, November, right? So we are now back at the level of Bitcoin when Bitcoin sometime in November was around 95,000 too, and then now. So before it was in extreme fear zone, right, at 11, and then now we are at similar price, but at a slightly more improved fear, neutral level. So good for us. It does seem things are shifting more bullish. But I wouldn't say we are immediately out from the whole bear market yet. So let's see how things are going. But for sure, keep an eye on the price action. We are still somewhat a distance away from reclaiming back that 200 days moving average. Once we can reclaim that, once we've got a few more candles green candles, by the way, to suggest that there's a huge sentiment shift, then we can flip back bullish. Okay, for now, I mean, at least from my point of view, I would still deem this as a possible dead cat bounce. Okay, so as a recap, I have 2 bags of Bitcoin. One is the hodl bag that I always talk about. You always buy, and buy more, and put that towards your hodl bag. And you want to build as big of a hodl bag as possible. Build it so that you are building your generational wealth that can be passed on to your, to your wife, kids, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and so forth, right? But at the same time, I've got a swing bag that I kind of buy low and sell high every now and then, because I need to take out some profit taking for my lifestyle, right? Because I'm kind of retired. I don't really work. So every now and then I might need to pay off my other assets, because here in my compound life, although you only watches all of my Bitcoin video, but seriously, what's sustaining me from my lifestyle yes, Bitcoin plays a part. It helps me to pay off some of my mortgages, right? But at the same time, what's actually keeping me sustainable is essentially because of my properties investment before, right? So that gives me a very, very good cash flow. Some might argue, why am I not full on into Bitcoin, and why am I making Bitcoin daily video? Well, because I mean, I've kind of gone into properties at a much more earlier days, right? At that time when I first got into properties, Bitcoin were non-existent, right? And I never quite knew about Bitcoin until much later, right? So yeah, if someone have told me much earlier about Bitcoin, I think I would be in a much more different situation. I might be driving a Lambo now or a Ferrari, chatting with you guys. Okay, so anyway, enough of my history. So let's move on to ETF. I think ETF are doing exceptionally well or better. As of yesterday, it was all bullish inflow, $753 million worth of inflow, largely due to Fidelity, Bitwise, and BlackRock. So good for Bitcoin. And of course, I think overall for the week, it definitely flips it bullish. So far for the week, only on Wednesday, for 2 days worth of ETF data, we are back to about $870 million worth of inflow versus last week. It was negative outflow of $681 million. So I think overall it's very, very good. Perhaps I'm expecting a huge Bitcoin ETF inflow today, right? Because it was obviously bullish, and then I've got even friends asking, hey, is it time to get back into Bitcoin? So I kind of felt there will be some retail FOMO going on for this coming few days. So perhaps for this whole week, ETF inflows could well be positive, I guess. Okay, and looking at Ethereum ETF, ETH ETF, yesterday it was also bullish, $130 million worth of inflow, largely coming from BlackRock, Fidelity, as well as Bitwise, and of course Grayscale. And Ethereum, it's looking good too. I think from a weekly perspective, so far it has received well over $135 million worth of inflow versus last week at negative outflow of $68 million. Okay, so definitely improvement for Ethereum. And Solana, I think everyone gets it. Solana ETF, again, positive inflow, 5.9 million. Again, yesterday coming majority from Fidelity. And for Solana weekly, again, it's doing well. Solana total for this week is 16 million versus last week of 41 million. Okay, so all inflow, everything inflow for Solana. So Solana doing very, very well, very, very strong for Sol ETF. But how's the price action for Sol? Let me just quick update. Yeah, Solana's doing well. 30 days, 9.8%. Okay. Yeah, it's doing even better compared to Ethereum. But anyway, I think Ethereum definitely had a very, very good upwards movement in the past 24 hours. 6% up versus Solana at 2.6%. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I talk about Solana sometime. FYI, full disclosure, I also have a small bag of Solana. So sometimes I do keep track of Solana's performance too. But anyway, Anyway, that's it for price action. Let's move on to news that moves Bitcoin price section, right? So quick look at the news. Want to talk about metal winning. Metal. Silver just broke $91. I mean, that was yesterday, right? Silver. Well, earlier today, okay? $91. So good for silver. Good for you guys that hold silver too, right? So if you guys holding silver, let me know in the comment section, right? I don't discriminate, right? This is not just all about Bitcoin, right? You can also hold other asset too. I'm not gonna call you a weekend or anything. So by the way, I also sell Bitcoin every now and then in my swing bag because I simply need to keep up with certain expenses sometime. But I'm still a huge, big believer of Bitcoin because it's one of the best asset out there that are outperforming any other asset class out there. So well done for whomever bought silver. I don't hold any silver by the way. First time ever in the history, broke all-time high of $91. It's now up 300% in the last 2 years. Okay, wowzer. So silver had added, I think, 3.8 trillion to its market cap and surpassed Nvidia, Google, and Apple, and now become the second largest asset in the whole world, right? So gold, silver, followed by anything else, right? So surpass Nvidia, Google, Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, then there we go, Bitcoin, right? Still at 1.895 trillion. Still cannot quite make that 2 trillion for Bitcoin. Okay, what about Tesla? Tesla is 13th at 1.487 trillion. Guys, I somehow felt Tesla is so undervalued. But anyway, I think Bitcoin is also very, very undervalued too, right? So yeah, I think it's always good to stack more Bitcoin. My take, right? Yeah, so this rally is absolutely crazy. I think silver is still taking mindshare away from Bitcoin by constantly doing more all-time high. Okay, so another news that I think also affect the overall Bitcoin price is US inflation data from yesterday. One key thing that might have helped the price today is the US inflation data that came out yesterday. So the consumer price index, or CPI, showed inflation at 2.7. Expected was also 2.7 for December. Which match what expert already expected. So this shows inflation is still sticky. I think somehow this may or may not reduce the chances of a rate cut. I need to highlight, okay? But I think that the whole thing between Trump and Fed, Trump piss off Fed, Fed pissing off Trump, I think could well delay the the rate cut. But anyway, that's all my speculation. So I think anyhow, CPI came out. This is important because high inflation erodes the value of regular money, and Bitcoin is seen as a hedge against that, like a shield, right? So let's hope this will continue to pump Bitcoin. So when inflation is steady and not spiking, it boosts hope that Federal Reserve, the Fed, the US Central Bank might keep interest rate low, right? At least for 2026, and not increase any rate, so that it gives us a slightly longer period for Bitcoin to build up some momentum. And who knows? We might get back to the recent all-time high which for now we are about 30% under the recent all-time high of 126,000 back in the 8th of October last year, right? So who knows? We might get back up. And of course, I think immediately after the CPI announcement, we saw Bitcoin jump about $2,700 right after the news, from around 93,500 to over 96,000. So short term, this is bullish, meaning positive for price growth, as it encourages more buying, right? It gives confidence back to people, right? Long term, it's also bullish, at least for the year. I think at least for the year, as it leads to stable economy, and usually stable economy, Bitcoin and crypto and any other growth assets will thrive. Okay, so we just need to bear in mind, immediately does it lead on to January, the rate cut, based on the FOMC meeting decision? I doubt it, right? So bear that in mind. And of course, I think there's still a CME gap that we need to take into consideration. So although Bitcoin is doing well at getting its ass back to 95,000, 96,000, I still felt CME gap, no rate cut. This might be the short-term hurdles that we might want to face immediately. Okay. Next news. Okay, so I think next thing, I don't have anything to show you. I'll just show you my face for now. Okay, and me smiling. Okay, so next news I think could potentially affect is essentially Fed, JP Morgan predicts that no rate cut this year, and maybe a hike in 2026, right? Because a lot of it is essentially due to President Trump, and Fed, Jerome Powell. You guys seen the video already, right? Jerome Powell over the weekend came out saying that, President Trump and their government admin, they have specific agenda to try to push through, try to, gain more growth for the US market, and trying to influence Fed's decision. Somehow, I think this will land pretty badly, because very likely it's not that because US presidents trying to prosecute Jerome Powell, but it's much more to do with all of this situation will somehow lead to the delay of Fed making the rate cut decision, right? So I don't think it's all good, but somehow JP Morgan's prediction, I think, might make sense. And I think somehow the key will still remain that, the Fed continue to stay independent to the rate cut decision. So I think I don't know how all of this is going to play out. Let me know in the comment section, right? Because to my understanding, so far, I think even with the soft jobs data recently, only 50,000 that gets added in December, supposedly there should be a rate cut coming, right? And to stimulus, the economy. But with all of this happening, I somehow felt maybe we might not get a rate cut after all. So bad for everyone, right? Okay, let's move on to other news. Okay, let's just continue to stay here first. And another thing that I think would, yeah, it's still a key concern that could be suppressing the Bitcoin price. At least, we don't see too much of a market makers manipulation on Bitcoin price anymore, right? At least that I still felt could be suppressing the Bitcoin price would be the Trump tariff, right? So the world event, like Trump imposing 25% tariffs on countries that are trading with Iran or Iran. How do you pronounce that? And yeah, I think this could potentially still affect the Bitcoin price. So, with such news announcement, it's actually giving much more awareness onto gold, right? Because people would, knowing that there are geopolitical kind of struggle, so that's why the best type of safest type of investment would probably be put into gold and metal, right? And not even into oil, because somehow Trump, they already seized Venezuela, $17 trillion worth of oil, right? So yes, I think Trump tariffs is also having a huge influence, as well as the potential Supreme Court ruling on tariffs this week. I think it's coming out today on the 14th. So we shall see whether the Supreme Court will deem the Trump's tariffs as illegal. If that's the case, all of the money that has been collected through the tariffs will need to be paid back. And that will not be good, because Bitcoin will definitely dip in the short term. So leverage traders, you guys need to be very, very careful. And but somehow I still see it overall, it should still be bullish, because it's gonna bring down the inflation, right? The price will go down, right? So the two sides of how you see the whole situation, I guess. Yeah, so this tariffs things. But having said that, my big argument, like back in the days of COVID, when there are like stimulus checks that goes out, I was hoping that with the Trump tariffs, very, very quickly there will be a $2,000 stimulus check that comes out for every American, right? Not the rich American, but the middle class one. So that will somehow accelerate more Bitcoin as well as growth assets accumulation for that short period of time. So no idea whether that will be affected too. Okay, let's move on to the next section. Other interesting news on Bitcoin. This one, I quite like this one. I want to cover this. UK news, 21 shares launch a Bitcoin as well as gold ETP on the London Stock Exchange on January the 13th. So this is kind of like covering the both, right? Because always like buy gold, buy Bitcoin. Now you can buy, ETPs together, right? So I think it's all good, because gold, it's store of value, and then Bitcoin is also being perceived as the digital store of value too, right? Background of what ETP is. ETP is like an ETF, letting you, especially us people in the UK, to invest in Bitcoin and gold together without owning them. Okay, that's good, right? Because there are certain individual that doesn't really like to go through the process of self-custody. I still reckon, right, if you are serious with Bitcoin, you need to learn how to buy this through an exchange, or buy this through an OTC, or buy it through an exchange safer, right? And then go through the process of self-custody in order for you to achieve that sovereignty, right? In order for you to protect your wealth that way. Okay, so that's very important. So if you are getting serious, learn how to do all of that self-custody process not through a cold wallet that you can download on your mobile phone, right? But of course, do so through a hardware wallet, a cold wallet. Okay, I'm actually thinking of making a video of such later on in the series of Buy Bitcoin. Okay, so this one is a Bitcoin daily video. I've got a series of Buy Bitcoin video that I kind of get into a lot more details about Bitcoin in general, not just the news. Okay, so hit the like, hit subscribe if you like my content. Yeah, so it's the first mixing crypto and traditional assets for the UK retail investors. Let me know in the comment section if you are a British viewer and you are kind of like considering about ETPs, especially from 21 shares. I mean, this is interesting, but will this get my involvement into buying? It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. Maybe if this somehow gets into, let's say, trading 212, right? And then I can put this into into one of my ISA wrapper, and maybe I would consider too, right? Because essentially, once it gets into my ISA wrapper, number one, this would be a tax-free investment. And at the same time, I'm getting good exposure onto Bitcoin and gold, right? So why not, right? I think it certainly does matter because it makes Bitcoin easier for everyday Brits to buy, someone like me, right? So I can have a small part of this that's tax-free. Because FYI, right? Even on a wrapper, right? We cannot immediately get access to buy Bitcoin that way. That would be tax free, right? So we can only do so through ETPs in the UK. I'm talking, right? So I think all of these are good. So far, I think so 21 shares listing this. Bitcoin and gold ETP is so attractive. Bitcoin and gold, right? You get both exposure. It's going to get so much FOMO in, because gold is doing all-time high. Bitcoin may or may not get to another all-time high. And then people like Brits will be like, whoa, let's buy this. You get exposure to both, right? And so the annual management fee is about 0.65%. They announced this yesterday, Tuesday. The launch is the firm's fifth crypto product for UK retail investors since Financial Conduct Authority lifted a 4-year ban last year. Okay, and already, according to the statement, they have about $40 million in asset under management for this already. So good for them. So it's a good start. Good for people in the UK to have exposure. I think it will be even better. I haven't checked Trading 212 whether we can. Just quick check. It will be better if we can actually buy this under our investment ISA, right? So that we don't get taxed. No, it's not on Trading 212 yet. Okay, I'll check that out. I'll update you guys once I've gotten more information. And last but not least, another thing I want to cover: US news. This is from US. Strive acquire Semler Scientific on January the 13th. So a bit of background: Strive, backed by Vivek Ramaswamy. They now hold well over 12,797 Bitcoin, worth approximately $1.1 billion. So that's definitely surpassing Tesla's ownership of Bitcoin. And why that matters? Because it really shows companies. So this become kind of like a trend now for companies because they are serious about Bitcoin. They know that having more Bitcoin is actually better than keeping more cash as part of your company's reserve, because cash, the value goes down so quickly, right? So this has now become a trend, shows companies are treating Bitcoin like a treasury asset, not just speculation, right? And of course, it encouraged other firms to buy. So short term, I think it's extremely bullish on corporate demand, and of course, long term bullish for Bitcoin as digital gold, right? So Strive, I make this mistake all the time. Strive is not Jack Mallers. It's not from Jack Mallers' company. So that's Strike. Okay, so Jack Mallers is the founder and CEO of Strike, a Bitcoin payment app using the Lightning Network. So I'm talking about Strive. So Strive started as an anti-Vogue or anti-ESG investment firm. They criticize big asset managers like BlackRock for pushing environmental, social, and governance agenda that they say hurt shareholders' value, which I think makes perfect sense. Instead, Strive focuses on maximizing return for everyday investors through things like ETF, proxy voting, and shareholders' engagement. So they grew pretty fast, managing well over $2 billion in asset through their ETF and other products. And of course, wanting to highlight the whole business concept of Strives, they aim to increase Bitcoin per share, like how much BTC each share of the company owns, to outperform just holding Bitcoin alone in the long run, right? So why go and buy Semler Scientific, right? The big reason Strive acquired Semler Scientific, essentially, it isn't about the medical business, but it's all about the Bitcoin, right? So Semler Scientific was one of the first public companies starting around 2024 to adopt Bitcoin as its primary treasury reserve asset. So essentially treating BTC like digital gold on the balance sheet to protect against inflation and grow value in the long term. So they accumulated well over 5,000 Bitcoin, I think worth hundreds of millions today value, by using cash from operations, raising equity, and even some debts. Okay, so we are definitely seeing more companies adoption, yada yada yada. Okay, so to wrap up this week, Bitcoin had strong 24 hours. I think everyone's happy. I'm happy because I'm thinking, when the hell can I get out from my swing bag, right? My Bitcoin swing bag. So once it gets up to about 100,000, I think it will be time to consider taking some profit. But having said that, right, potentially we could be getting into a super cycle. You never know, right? And that's the thing about Bitcoin. You know, you can never quite predict. But I'm here not to speculate, not to hype, not to give high-power prediction, but to manage expectation, to make sure that you, me, and anyone else, right, if you do have a Bitcoin swing back, we be sensible to take profit, right? Imagine a lot of us, because I never took enough profit at 126,000 back in October the 8th. And for the past two cycles, so this is my third cycle, total Bitcoin cycle, there are 4, right? For the past two cycle, for my first cycle, I never took profit at all. So I kind of hodled Bitcoin from the ups to the lows, right? And second cycle, I started to learn more and stop buying shit coins and really focus all my efforts on Bitcoin. So this time around, I think I'm doing well enough, and remember to take enough profit. Well, not enough profit in my case yet. So this is why I'm trying to manage expectation to sandbag stuff, so that, you know, we essentially don't get blinded by influencers like Tom Lee or CZ that's telling you that, Bitcoin is going to $250,000 or $500,000. Okay, so let's quickly move on to the last section of today, which is viewers' questions, right? So viewers' questions, great. I love how this community is building up, guys. What's my current level of subscribers? Okay, so my current, it's 177. So thank you all for subscribing to my channel and building this community. I'm definitely seeing this community growing, so really appreciate everyone's effort. Let's go into questions. Love to call everyone out. Stephen Curran. So this is a user, Stephen Curran, whole 3LU, 175th subs. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. Really appreciate all of you subscribe. And we've got another new subscriber, the Load 1978. Fantastic. Good that you guys stumble across my content and subscribe. I'll try to keep everyone entertained, and I'll try to bring in more values through my content. And certainly, I'm trying to improve my content over this short period of time. I'm a small content creator, so do bear with me, and I'll definitely improve and bring in more better content very, very soon. Keep posting, sir, from Llama, New Creature. Llama? Did I pronounce correctly? So the viewer, Llama, New Creature. So keep posting, sir. Yes, sir, I will keep posting. Thank you very much. Great Golden Retriever said, this is wonderful content. Please keep going. Just discovered you the other day. Fantastic. Thank you so much for leaving me wonderful content. It's always nice to read nice content. So thank you very much. And of course, we've got Michael Tonley. Apology if I haven't pronounced it correctly. 176 from Australia. Fantastic. Thank you so much for subscribing. And one thing I want to highlight, I never have had Australian before in any of my content. So let's quickly look at my YouTube stats, right? So back in January, so this is a stat for January, right? So January, I started to have Australian viewers, right? Majority is still coming from the US, followed by the UK, followed by Canada, and then Australia, and then some from the Philippines. And then I've got, okay, majority of you guys are actually male, right? It's only like male buying Bitcoin, no female. But recently I discovered that I started to have more female thinking of buying Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoiners, or they could be Bitcoiners, Bitcoin maxis, female Bitcoin maxis. So good for female that watches my channel too. And then, yeah, I think it's always good to see younger people getting serious with their investment. And then, of course, people with plenty of disposable income thinking how they want to expand out, right? So if you're in the UK, you don't want self-custody for Bitcoin, maybe that ETP news from that I've just covered from, what's that company called? 21 Shares. Maybe it's a good option. You get a good exposure to gold as well as Bitcoin, right? Yeah, so if I kind of look through my earlier days, so I've kind of gone in much serious content generation from December onwards, but this is my November stats. Majority of the viewers were actually from the UK, followed by the US. And essentially, you can kind of see how things change, right? So this was from November, and then if I look through December, you know, we started to have some Australian, no female at all during December. Yeah, I think things change very, very fast, like Bitcoin, like sentiment change for Bitcoin. So thank you very much, Michael Thornley, for subscribing from Australia. Yeah, it's just interesting how my content gets, you know, propagated to Australia too. So good for you. Thanks, man. And then I have got viewer handle name is Haddon Boy. I need a mentor. I appreciate the content because it's going to help me a lot. Thank you, Haddon Boy. I will mentor you through better content creation and talk more about Bitcoin soon. So watch this space. Remember to subscribe too, yeah? And of course, a viewer, I think this specific response was towards gold and silver, aged like fine wine. I don't think he meant me aging like a fine wine, so I'm taking that as a compliment. So a viewer handle name FroDudanOS8440. So thanks for leaving a good comment for gold and silver, for again bringing out my top of mind on gold. But for now, I think Bitcoin, the digital code, is more on my top of mind. Unless for 21 shares, you know, I can start to buy through my investment ISA, which will be tax-free, you know, that I will consider getting some exposure of Bitcoin and gold through Bitcoin Gold ETP. Okay. That's not financial advice, of course, guys. Okay, Macker89, one of my most earlier viewer and I think subscriber too, right? Macker89, you do subscribe, right? So remember to hit subscribe if you haven't. So Macker89 said, DCA Inc. saving, investing, best decision of my life. Brilliant, right? That's what we all need for My Compound Life. It gets easier, more rewarding, and quality of life just becomes so much better the longer you're in the game. Just the peace of mind that comes along with it is so worth it. Yeah, definitely. Whatever Macker89 talks about, that's what we're trying to communicate through My Compound Life channel too, right? So save hard and then invest hard, right? So that's what we all need to do, and that will eventually lead us to financial freedom. And of course, guys, Bitcoin, if you're into Bitcoin, you know, this ain't no meme coin anymore, right? We have to be here for the long game. Okay, so thanks Macker89 for leaving me the comment. And then another viewer. No, I don't want to call this out because this seems to be some spammy thing. Which, by the way, I'm seeing this kind of spam coming up, appearing on my content, which I take that as a compliment because it means there are viewers, and then the spammers or scammers think, you know, are seeing traction on my video to want to leave spamming content. So, but I do certainly want to call out to all of you guys, please be careful. So don't go out and buy this kind of coins or tokens, right? So these are all spam. Just bear that in mind. And I never reach out to any one of you through Telegram. So please be careful. Please be extremely careful, guys. Okay. Another Australian viewer, handle name Hodled BTC. Love the handle name, right? This is what we all need to. So this is why in my channel I always talk about having a hodl bag for Bitcoin. That bag you never touches, you just keep on adding to it, right? And then you want to hodl that for the longer term, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? If you're into Bitcoin early, you know, it seems that you are one of the earlier investors, because hodl Bitcoin is from Australia. BTC investors since 2018. Love your channel and have sub. Thank you very much. So always remember to build up your hodl bag for Bitcoin. And of course, I've got a swing bag that I try to sell, buy low, sell high. But anyway, thank you, hodl BTC. We've got another viewer 3 days ago, L7RC1. Good luck, Jonathan, in your YouTube channel. Great advice. We're both in the same journey. I'm from Bahrain. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter where you are, right? And essentially, Bitcoin is for everyone, okay? I still, although this time around, you can see definitely a lot of institutions, investors, own money trying to get into Bitcoin too, right? But the entry of barrier for Bitcoin is still very, 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 very low, guys. I mean, you can just start your DCA with $10. £10, guys. What's £10 or $10 to you guys, right? I mean, in Chinatown, you can't even get a meal for £10. I don't think you can get a decent meal for £10 nowadays, right? A sit-down meal, okay? You can definitely get some great sandwiches and a drink and a packet of crisp. But to be frank, I think anyone can just start off their journey with £10 worth of Bitcoin investment and just pound cost average or dollar cost average on a daily basis, right? And start it off. Another viewer, Damien Clark 9277. Welcome, good to see you. Thanks for commenting. Hey mate, new subs here. Great, you subscribe. Love you. Great video. I would like hear some tips on what calculation one should do, like you spoke of when using market cap of a potential crypto buy. Okay, yep. I think that's a. Thanks for commenting this. I think that would be a video that's worthwhile to spend some time to create. I'll draw out some PowerPoints. I'll draw out some formulas and calculation for this video. I'll see whether I can drop that video quite soon. Thanks for commenting, Damien Clark 9277. Love the hat. Oh, from Machiavel 11. I've got the exact same hat too, just to please you. So here you go, the exact same hat. And we've got another viewer 3 days ago, Boss Ball Head Dog 2588. Had 3 coins, 1 coin and 2 coins in GBTC. Double my money and sold it. Whew, okay, well done for selling. What's SMDH? What's SMDH? Shaking my damn head. Oh, okay. I'm not really into slang. But anyways, shaking my head. Been dollar cost averaging. Absolutely. I think that's the thing to do. I think, you know what? So these are like cases where I'm sure, you know, once Boss Board Head Dog 2588 kind of gone into Bitcoin earlier, he made some money. He doubled down. He doubled his money, and then he kind of knew what an incredible the Bitcoin asset is, right? So that's why he continued to dollar cost average back in, right? So there will not be when's the best time to buy or when is the best time to not to buy, right? So if you're in the long run for the Bitcoin asset, it doesn't matter, right? Just buy and hold and go long, right? I think that's it today. Too long for my video, 1 hour. So that's it. I'll see you all in the next video, and thanks everyone for leaving me a message. I'll try to go through more comments soon. Okay, thanks. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.